Okay, now Governor Cuomo is in the news a lot lately for good reason. So I wanted to go through a video of his former executive assistant number one, Brittany Commisso, and some of the claims that she made against him of harassment. And there's one takeaway from this, at least one takeaway, there's many takeaways, but one really important takeaway that I see repeatedly in the employment context that victims of harassment fail to do, and they can make their employment case against the harasser much more difficult than it should be. And so let's go through this, see what we find.
I had to go over to the mansion to help the governor with a State of the State speech. I wasn't there late. I did my final edit, and while I was upstairs in the office, the governor said, "Why don't we take a selfie?"
So his suggestion, you
Yes.
say? With your phone?
With my phone. I then felt, while taking the selfie, his hand go down my back onto my butt, and he started rubbing it. Not sliding it, not, quickly brushing over it, rubbing my butt.
Okay, let's stop right there. Couple things. When we're talking about harassment in the employment context, most people hear quid pro quo, they hear hostile work environment. The reason that those two different terms are thrown around is because courts in the past have made a distinction between harassment that leads to an adverse employment action, like firing somebody, demoting them, a quid pro quo, or a hostile work environment that is so hostile that it changes the conditions of the employment, right? And so they're two different forms of harassment. Both are harassment. What she's describing right here, where Governor Cuomo, her employer, is rubbing her butt. Now, that is would fall into a category right now, from what I can see, is a hostile work environment. And so when you have an employer who is, not necessarily saying, hey, I'm going to fire you if you don't go along, but he's creating a really hostile environment. And one of the issues with hostile work environment that you look at is, in order to prove a claim in court of hostile work environment, what you're going to have to prove is that the harassment was so severe or pervasive that it would alter the conditions of the victim's employment. And so in this case, the question would be, is this pervasive or is it severe? And so, grabbing a woman's butt in the work is severe. And so that alone would be enough harassment to make it unlawful. And so if you prove that it was unwelcome and you complained about it, that would certainly be the type of harassment that is actionable. And so that's something you should immediately report, and that's enough. And so let's keep going with the video.
And did you ask him, what are you doing?
Well, this was while I was taking the selfie. I became so nervous that my hands were clearly shaking, and a lot of the photos that I was snapping were completely blurry. I showed him them, and he said, "Oh, those aren't good."
So you can tell it's the type of situation that really was affecting her. And I see this all the time with harassment, that it puts an incredible amount of stress on the victim, to say the least. And so, even in situations where the conduct isn't as severe as grabbing a woman's butt, but in this case, certainly it caused her a lot of stress.
And he said, "Why don't we go sit on the couch and we can take a better one?"
So you sat on the couch?
I sat on the couch because I thought to myself, okay, I don't think on the couch that he would have a way to just do what he just did. So I felt safer, actually, on the couch. And in the photo, I have my arm wrapped around his shoulder, almost as if, we were taking a picture with a buddy. And that is the one that has been blurred out, that has been now released to the public.
The governor has denied that he put his hand on Commisso's bottom during the selfie.
Okay, so a couple things with that part. You can go sit on a couch, and that doesn't mean that you're consenting to sexual harassment. And so, to be very clear, you would have to prove that the sexual advance is unwelcome, Certainly sitting on a couch might, muddy that a little bit, but, sitting on a couch with your employer or your coworker, it's okay. And it doesn't necessarily waive any claim that you're right to object to sexual harassment. So to be very clear.
It was in probably the most sexually aggressive manner than any of the other hugs that he had given me. It was then that I said, Governor, my words were, "You're going to get us in trouble." And I thought to myself, that probably wasn't the best thing to say, but at that time I was so afraid that one of the mansion staff, that they were going to come up and see this and think, oh, is that what she comes here for? And that's not what I came there for, and that's not who I am.
One of the things to note in this is the obvious difference in power. If you're a supervisor over a subordinate, you should not be engaging in any kind of activity that could even remotely be considered sexual, because the power dynamic in that relationship will almost make it default to a sexual harassment situation. And so in this situation, it's because in real life, that power differential creates a dynamic where even a wonderfully capable lady such as this feels awkward even objecting to the conduct. And that's very real. I see that all the time where my clients felt like they had consented at some point, even in a minor way, to the harassment, and so they almost felt like they couldn't object to it in a way because they had gone along with it knowing that they are capable, and they're like, wait a minute, well, I didn't say no fast enough, kind of thing. And that's a very real phenomenon that I see in my practice. And so that doesn't make the conduct okay, and it doesn't make it not sexual harassment. So ladies or gentlemen out there that are being harassed, you have to make sure that even if you feel like you were consenting in some way, you should still talk to an attorney. You should still report the conduct. You should still complain to your company and your boss, because it is important that you put a stop to it as quickly as you can. But even if it's already happened, talk to an attorney. They can guide you through this process. And many times what you went through isn't okay, even though in the moment sometimes you think it is. It's a very real thing.
They must think, if they heard that, what is going on? Came back to me, and that's when he put his hand up my blouse and cupped my breast over my bra. I exactly remember looking down, seeing his hand, which is a large hand, thinking to myself, oh my God, this is happening. It happened so quick. He didn't say anything. When I stopped it, he just pulled away and walked away.
Okay, so if any part of the harassment up until this point was even questionably not severe, certainly that is severe. And with that said, I kind of say that jokingly, but know that grabbing a lady's ass at work is severe. Putting your hand up her shirt is severe. But there are situations where the harassment isn't so severe and it isn't so aggressively hostile, such as that. And those are the situations that fall into the category of pervasive conduct. And so that can be sexual harassment as well if it's conduct that are little minor things that's unwelcome, sexual advances, conduct, or comments. A lot of times they're just comments that are sexual in nature, and they happen over a period of time. Those they can together be pervasive enough that they amount to sexual harassment, and it can be a hostile work environment. So keep that in mind. These are severe examples of sexual harassment, but it can be minor. It can be comments about your appearance, your weight. I see that a lot. Anything that's gender specific can be sexual harassment. So keep an eye out for that. And as I promised at the beginning of the video, the number one thing that you need to do if you're being harassed is complain to your employer. So if you don't complain to your employer, you can still sue the harasser. You can still sue the person who's groping you or creating this environment. But many times you don't want to sue the supervisor alone or the person that does the harassing. Many times you want to sue the company. And so to sue your employer for what somebody else did that's in your employer's employ means you have to make sure that your employer knew or should have known of the harassment. And so that's where a lot of my clients or former clients have they didn't make enough complaining or complaints. And so make sure you put your employer on notice of the conduct. Let somebody know. They can't fix it, and you can't sue them for not fixing it if you don't actually tell them. So that's the number one thing I see. Make sure you do that. It's tough. They're very sensitive situations. Many times people feel guilty. Talk to an attorney. Don't let that prevent you from complaining of it. Make sure you speak up. This is very important. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope this is instructive. A different take on what Governor Cuomo has been accused of doing. So follow us on YouTube. Check out our website. If you have any questions or if you've been the subject of sexual harassment, please give us a call. We'd love to talk to you about it, let you know what we would do in the situation or give you some counsel, advice, see if it's something that we could pursue legally as well. So thanks so much for watching.